Hello, Lindsay. It's nice to be back talking about illustrators for our monthly session of doing that. Arthur Rackham, that we're talking about this month, is certainly very important to us. He was one of the reasons we started all this business in the first place. In 1970, when we started the Green Tiger, he was kind of forgotten. He was born in 1867 and he died in 1939, but by 1970 he was kind of considered old-fashioned and not very much in anybody's mind. And being book collectors, we had some of his books and we knew how beautiful his illustrations were. We wanted to bring them bring to the public. It's hard to overestimate his importance in illustration. He was an Englishman and he was very important by their own confession to C.S. Lewis, who made the Narnia series, and Tolkien. Both of them were great fans of his work, and I think it would influence as young men, their interest in fantasy, which, as you know, led to incredible works of literature. Yeah, right. So anyway, we were very lucky because we started collecting when he wasn't popular, and we were able to get some really nice examples of his work. This one is called The Dish of Apples. I know that you can't see this very well from where you are. We're going to show you some of these close up at the end. This is called The Dish of Apples. As you can see, it's a beautiful copy. In fact, this is a signed copy. You see this is signed by both.
Oh wow.
By Arthur Rackham himself and by the author. So that was, yeah.
So like he did this, correct?
Yes, he was excellent in black and white. He liked silhouettes a lot, and a number of his books are done completely in silhouette or in silhouette that's been colored. This is one of the later books. Yeah, I don't have his earliest book here. This one, we can look at this one. This one was you see, yeah, you can see some of the black and white. He always interspersed things with their very strong black and white.
Very simple.
Yes,
but they have really good detail to them.
Yes, very, very, very strong detail. This is English fairy tales. I don't think the covering of this illustration, I think that's terrible paper. It's probably not doing it any service. They put this paper in, but it wasn't nearly as good a quality as the book itself, and sometimes it caused more harm than good. Let me see if I can find you a colored one here. Beautiful one of cat skin. As I say, we'll show you these closer on. This is another, I think this is also another limited edition, maybe a signed edition. I'm not sure whether it is or not. Oh yeah. Yep. Signed. So, and it's vellum. They did these vellum covers, which are vellum is kind of skin. So anyway, this is something that Sutherland, who is reviewing his work, says about him. Mr. Rackham stands apart from all the other illustrators of his day. His genius is so thoroughly original. Scores of others have depicted fairyland and wonderland, but who else has given us so absolutely individual and persuasively suggestive a vision of their marvels and allurements? And that really says it. His vision of fairies and things is it's so convincing. You really believe that he's seen them and is illustrating something that he's seen. They can't see these. You're going to see when you see these up close. You'll be better. You won't be able to see this one, but you can see it later. Trees. He was able to make trees
feel human-like.
He was able to make trees completely give them character.
Yeah.
That was one of the things that he specialized in. His fairyland was always full of trees that were, threatening or doing something.
They had big personalities.
Oh yeah, big personalities in trees. This is a late one. This is a fairly as I say, he lived to be till 1939, and I think this is a what do you call it, a heritage, book, yeah, anyway. So you see now these is getting more repeatedly. He still is very strong with line, but there's more color than there is in some of these early
There's like
ones.
lighter strokes too. There's kind of less of the really prolific strokes and some more gentle, easy details.
He did use transparent watercolor. It makes him kind of hard to reproduce, I will say. Like this one here. This is a blow up. That's a Rackham from Peter Pan in Kensington Gardens, which was one of the things that made him famous. Inglesby Legend was his first book, but this Peter Pan made him was a breakthrough for him. And what we'll show you later is this magnificent thing. Peter Pan in Kensington Gardens. This is the portfolio of prints, and they're really lovely. We'll see those shortly. So, yes, we looked at that one. He also did a series of, he did The Ring of the Nibelung. This is a Dutch version of The Ring of the Nibelung. He was published in many countries all over Europe. They translated him into many stories, as I say now. You can see how dark it is. That's one of the troubles with Rackham. That's one of the reasons why he's very hard to reproduce, because it was partly his style and partly, this is a little bit lighter one of the dragon.
Right, there's a lot of contrast in everything he does.
Yeah,
there's
but you can see
a lot of light and a lot of dark or really
yeah,
dark.
but he tended to have a very limited palette, and especially in the early times, so much grays and so forth that it gets hard to do. This is a beautiful picture, but there's so much grays.
They kind of have that monochromatic look
that
to
it gives
them.
a monochromatic, which makes it kind of hard to do it. Anyway, he's a great favorite of ours. And here's a quote by the author of a biography of him.
About him.
Yeah.
Rackham brought a renewed sense of excitement to book illustration that coincided with the rapid developments in printing technology in the early 20th century. Working with subtle color and wiry line, he exploited the growing strengths of commercial printing to create imagery and characterizations that reinvigorated children's literature, electrified young readers, and dominated the art of book illustration at the start of a new century.
And that really says it. That gives you an idea of how important he was. We have I don't think we've ever not had a Rackham or two in our line. As I say, he's been a great favorite of ours, and it's a great pleasure to talk about him. And now we'll give you some close-ups of some of the books that you can see for yourself. Here's the dish of apples that we talked about. You can see it's a gold foil stamped cover. This one has a linen cover. And here I want to show you Rackham's signature since we have it. There he is, Arthur Rackham. Signed it himself. And I don't know when this was. This is number 171. And the English are terrible about telling you the dates on things. So this is New York, so I don't know when it is. Here's the beautiful Peter Pan portfolio. This was done because the book had been so popular. Beautiful writing. See the lovely pictures. I'll show you, if I can find it, the one that you were seeing there, and you'll see how hard it is to... See, they're lovely. He's really good. See these lovely fairies? They're so real. They're such real, yeah, and they're such real people. I'm trying to find the one of the. That's a nice one of the personified chrysanthemum. That's very, very Rackham-esque.
Oh, wow.
See the personified, the old lady who's a chrysanthemum with her umbrella and so forth. That's very Rackham.
That's so wild.
Something like that. And here's a nice one of the elves changing the numbers.
It's amazing, the amount of detail.
Yeah. And the character, you can see the character of the elves. But he could do, obviously he could do people too. Where's the fairy? See, there's a good tree. Has that tree got faces? Mm-hmm. Maybe. See the mice there?
Yep,
and
the
mice
crow.
They're mice with the shoes, so forth. The scarves and everything. His fairies, sometimes the fairies have wings and things, but usually they don't. Usually they're just wonderful little people. one of the those fairies have wings. Here's this one. As you can see why they're so hard to reproduce, even though it's exquisite, with a little character, the cellist, the beetle cellist, and the little horn player, but the colors are so muted. You can see his strength, the strength of his silhouette in the darkness.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's a little example of the beautiful print portfolio. This is Wind in the Willows. This is the later book. In fact, I think this is a limited editions club. It was published in 1940. He died in 1939. So this is the last book he made.
The last book that he made.
And you can see that he is now accepted or taking advantage of the improvements in color
and the varying styles that he's...
so that he's using the better technology and putting in more color and depending less on just having line drawings that are colored. Things are being more thoroughly colored. They're more thoroughly watercolory. I've seen watercolors of his that were not intended for book illustration, and they're just beautiful watercolors. He doesn't necessarily depend on the line so much, but you can see he's got much more color, much less dependent on line and more dependent on the
he has
watercolor.
Those softer details in
right, the
it.
watercolor of the garments and everything that he really couldn't do in 1903, which is when the Peter Pan. See, this is a whole
different.
Over
so
30
many
years.
more styles were available.
Yeah, or
techniques.
This was over 30 years later, and technology had improved enormously in that period. So he has much more capacity, much more resources of printing. So he can do much more. There's some trees up there. Look, see the trees talking? You see the trees talking?
Oh, wow, yeah. Look at their faces, yeah.
Yeah, that's very Rackham. Anyway, delighted to show you these, share with you the things we have in our collection.